recognize Karl Miller, Director of our 2021 Texas Gold Medal Award-winning Parks, Recreation, and Facility Department. If you'll lead us off, please.
Yep, thank you, sir. Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. I'm Karl Miller, Director of Parks, Recreation, and Facilities. I appreciate this opportunity tonight to share with you what our department does and what we're all about. Parks and Recreation, as you know, is considered provides quality of life services. I think this past year with the pandemic, that term really could probably change to essential quality of life services. Communities realized the impact that Parks Recreation has on their lives. That we've all seen on the news where over the past year, where parks are just overwhelmed with people, whether you've seen in the news or the media or the newspaper, they're just overwhelmed. We experienced the same thing in our parks. The high usage in our parks was incredible. If you look back at when we opened the tennis courts this past summer, opened them up, our tennis court usage, reservations went up over 500%. You couldn't get a tennis court. You look at Evergreen Pool, when we had it open this summer for lap swim, it was packed. It was open, from sun up to sundown or after, and we were running 11 lanes at a time. I think it was the highest usage of Evergreen since I've been here. So people are realizing the impact of Parks and Recreation on their well-being and their mental health, not only as individuals, but as a family unit and as a community. So I really think we've discovered we're really more essential quality of life. The department is, a lot of what we do is fostering relationships within the community through our programs, our parks, our events, the services we provide to the residents and our visitors, and the local community organizations. The department is responsible for the parks, the right-of-ways, facilities, green space, and this all relates back to the council's priority of quality of life and providing a high standard of green space and facilities to our residents. The department is also responsible for the maintenance and upkeep of our city buildings, as well as fleet management was transferred over to us this January. Some of our projects we recently accomplished was the City Hall building, police and municipal courts. We were responsible for the construction of the fire station, phase 1 construction of Evelyn's Park, Ware Family Park improvement, Lafayette Park, Mulberry Park, just to name a few. Who are our residents? Who do we serve? We serve the Bellaire residents. We serve the Bellaire City Council, the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, our Bee Life Advisory Board. We serve the Youth Sports Association, Edmund Park Conservancy, Nature Discovery Center. We serve a variety of community groups, our sports associations, our internal customers with our buildings and our services. That means our staff and our departments, as well as our contractors, our vendors, and our consultants. How is our department made up? We're broken into 4 divisions. Our administration division, our parks division, recreation division, our facilities division. What does that look like? Administrative division, primarily it's me. And with that, I'm responsible for ultimately everything within the department, and the parks and recreation, as well as in the facilities. Capital improvement projects, construction, as I mentioned, this building, working with a variety of community groups, and the ultimate oversight of 35 contracts that we oversee. The Parks Division is responsible for parks, grounds, and amenities, the right-of-ways, fleet management, and have direct contract responsibilities with right-of-ways, landscapers, the fountain at Evelyn's Park, portable restrooms, tree care, etc. The Recreation Division, they're responsible for athletics, recreation center, camp, senior citizen programs and services, special events, marketing initiatives, and have direct contract oversight of our instructors, which are, all our instructors are under contract. They are not city employees under contract, so if their programs aren't bringing in the revenue, they don't get paid. they don't work. So there's lessened impact on the city tax dollars that way. There's recreation is responsible for the HISD agreements, which we have up on the agenda tonight, and the sports association agreements, which utilize those HISD agreements. The facilities division is responsible for our buildings and our facilities, our city safety systems. They have his direct oversight of contracts regarding pest control, HVAC automation, mechanics, janitorial, safety systems, electrical, elevators, generators, and the list goes on. As well as Brandon is extremely instrumental in all our CIP projects. How is our department broken out? Well, we have 29 FTE, full-time equivalency employees in the department. Of that, 14 of those are full-time permanent employees. 15 of those FTE are part-time seasonal type employees, lifeguards, rec aid, cashiers, camp counselors. So the vast majority of our employees are either seasonal or part-time. At the top, the director, and I'm at the top there, we're a very flat department. In that, we have our park superintendent, who oversees a crew leader, 2 maintenance individuals, our facilities superintendent, who oversees 2 custodians, then Ryan Smith, our recreation superintendent, who oversees our administrative assistant, our aquatic supervisor, recreation supervisor of the rec center, our recreation supervisor over Be Life and special events, and our recreation supervisor who's over athletics and camps. Our budget, if you look at FY20 adopted at $3.9 billion, and then look at FY20 actual, it's at $3.4 billion. That's a $500,000 reduction last fiscal year compared to what we originally allocated. That's directly related to COVID. If you recall, back in March, everything shut down. We stopped our events, we stopped our programs, we shut down the vast majority of our facilities over a period of time. We didn't have some trolley run, didn't have our concerts in the parks, we didn't have 4th of July event, didn't have a Halloween event. Aquatic Center was open for a week last year. Hopefully this year will go longer. A lot of things shut down. Now, so a lot of that was related to the recreation side. We still had to maintain our buildings. We still had to maintain our parks and provide services. But there was a significant reduction last year in savings due to COVID. This year, during our mid-year report, which we just turned into the finance department, we also identified another significant savings in this year's budget, not as large as last year's, but we did identify another significant savings in there because of programs not operating at full capacity. You know, this year, the summer, we're kicking things off again. Aquatic Center is opening this weekend. The pool is going to be opening. We're getting more requests for rentals on a regular basis right now. Camp, last summer ran at 50% capacity. This summer we're running at a 75% capacity, and it's almost full. And it may be full, actually. So the demand for camp is extremely high right now. Our sports, they're maxed out. They're completely filling right now. So parents are wanting to get back involved, and people are wanting to start making reservations and use our services more and more. Our ICMA performance indicators. We have 51 developed acres of parkland. The park maintenance for the second quarter, our expenditure per acre this quarter was at $3,500 per acre. That's all in, includes everything: personnel, contracts, fuel, maintenance, tools, winter freeze preparation, everything in that number. Our next indicator is our recreation programs and services for the second quarter. We had 2,500 registered participants. Like I said, things are slow, but they're coming back, which is great to see. They're a lot better than last year at this time, the registration numbers. So, and then the custodial cost per square foot, the second quarter ran at $2.38 per square foot. We We have just under 115,000 square feet of buildings that we provide custodial services to. Our management projects for FY '22, I mentioned to you the fleet management program was transferred over to us from the finance department. We'll continue to work with them in a collaborative manner in working through that transition and make sure it goes smoothly. Buster Adams is going to oversee that program. Another project we'll be working on is the Energy Demand Resource Program, and it's basically an agreement between municipalities and energy providers that when we put energy back on the grid through our generators during peak usage time. Our initial findings is ERCOT is saying our generators aren't quite big enough. With David Roylance, y'all met him a few months back, worked with us on finding us the best deal for our electricity. He's an electricity consultant. We'll continue to work with him, myself, and Mike Leach, Public Works Director, will be working on that. So it's a collaborative program between the two departments. FY '22 budget considerations. Our biggest thing is we're going to be focusing on getting us back to where we once were with COVID, through different initiatives and promotional opportunities. We reach out, try to get people back, try to get our programs back. We still got a lot of instructors that aren't ready to come back and start that offering services. And things have changed. You know, people are looking at things a little bit differently than how they looked at their recreation programs in the past. So we'll be working through that. I mentioned the fleet management program, as well as we'll continue to eliminate the identified ADA barriers that were identified back in the winter of 2020 in our ADA assessment. And that is a quick summary of our department. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Great. Lots of good detail in there. So thanks very much, Carl. Welcome. Questions and feedback, people?
Yeah, thank you for that. I think earlier this year I had a conversation with City Manager Frank Gehry about tracking the cost of the different parks, because that might have a contractual implication, and I was wondering if that has been done.
We do not track our parks currently that way, individual parks. We're not set up to do it that way. I'm sure it's something we can talk through.
Let's go back to like last June, and that was the answer to that thing, and we were trying to do it.
It's really difficult to do because of our contract. Some of them, for example, off the top of my head, when you buy decomposed granite, we buy it in bulk.
Oh, yeah.
And we don't know how much is going here, and how much is going here, and how much is going here.
Yeah.
Specifically when we buy it.
But as far as maintenance, not additions, but, you know, just the regular maintenance.
Sure. And some of that, like the landscape maintenance contract, we can break that out.
Okay.
You know, that type of stuff.
What about plumbing and, you know, the aquatic center must have some expense.
Some of that we can do pretty easily.
Evergreen, and then there's gonna be a splash pad at Evelyn's Park, so there's gonna be increased plumbing costs and water costs.
And
Yeah.
Councilmember Lewis, if I may, as we get to better tracking and documenting our individual work orders, I know that our plan is for our maintenance efforts in our facilities to also track what they do via the work order system and the Quest system that we're currently implementing. So I think that'll also help us really get to a more granular level regarding some of the different locations.
And some of that we can do now.
And we should, because it has contractual implications.
This is Jim Hosey. The Energy Demand Response Program, tell me what you've done on this again? Why is it listed here?
It is a program that we're looking into to see if there's a way to reduce the city's cost for electricity, while at the same time it would allow us to put energy back on the grid. The electric grid during peak times, there are programs out there that if you bring your generator during a peak demand in August, that you're reducing the amount of energy that's being used by the city, reduces our cost, and it alleviates that demand on the electrical grid. And it's something we're looking into. I mean, it will certainly come back to council for anything.
Carl, let me interrupt real quick. The demand response program would not necessarily come back to council because it's built into our supply contract. So what it would entail is, as Carl mentioned, us running our generators. I think as part of the program, we would run them once a month. But if there are times when they were anticipating rolling brownouts or things along that line, they would call us and ask us to run our generator for a period of time if we can. We have a lot of flexibility in that, and I know that Mr. Royland had mentioned this way back when, but we can certainly provide some additional details or provide those sections of the contract if that's something you all are interested in. But what it ends up is that for our load and for the generator capacity that we have, we would end up getting some sort of a refund based on however the final deal would be negotiated. But it would be money back into the city.
This is the first I've heard of an energy demand response program, right?
No, sir. Demand response was included as part of the presentation to council when the electric contract was discussed. I said, if need be, we can go back and pull that and resend that.
Good, I'd like to do that.
Sure thing.
Somebody recently told me that for every dollar of electricity you pay for, 70% goes for delivering it.
The transmission and distribution costs are pretty high. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Following on that question, and this is probably best directed at Brent, I appreciate in these departmental overviews that one of the consistent slides that appears each time is the management project. This may be a good opportunity to provide an overview of what is the management project. Why?
Yes, sir. And certainly. So what we're doing is looking at some of the strategic initiatives, management projects, those items that have been talked about, whether it be from FY21 or FY22, but it's the specific efforts that departments are engaging in that are kind of focused on looking for efficiencies, looking for new ways to do things, further implementation of specific council goals and specific council actions. And so the demand response program won't go into effect until FY22. And so as that was a part of our electric contract, once that contract goes into place, I think it's January. So once that contract goes in place, we'll have the opportunity to begin looking at the specifics of demand response, for example.
So as I recall, Brent, from prior years, staff will present potential management projects as part of the budget cycle, as they're doing with these departmental overviews, probably for a couple of reasons. One might be, hey, council, if you don't want us to expend internal resources on whatever X, Y, or Z initiative, now's a good time to tell us.
Absolutely.
But then two, getting back to Councilmember Coates' question, some may lead to future council actions, some may not. So you indicated in this instance, because it's part of our existing electrical contract, we wouldn't require approval, but as a matter of course, it'd be presented to us.
No, sir.
I don't mean for approval, but I mean, hey, we have an ongoing management project. Before we close that out,
Oh.
council will be advised, here's what happened.
Yeah, here's the benefits of it. And in addition to the other two kind of means for management projects to emerge, following up or implementation of prior council action is also certainly one of those as well. And that's what this would fall into, because absolutely we want to get the best deal that we can for the city. And hopefully we'll be able to have a robust refund that can help us out. So we're certainly looking forward to finding out what we can do.
And the last question I can think of about management projects generally is they are often staff initiated, but could also be the result of council direction or request. I think I've come to you in the past, Brandon, and said, hey, I'm thinking about requesting an agenda item on X, Y, or Z, and your answer is, I don't know that you need to direct staff to do that. We can set that up as a management project, provided council is okay with our spending time and resources pursuing it. I think the fee study started that way, as a management project, if I recall.
Okay,
It's
that,
not a pop quiz, if you don't.
no, I don't recall the specifics, but,
I think there were at least 4 of them in last year's budget cycle, that they were presented as slides, saying these are management projects that, speak up now if you don't want us to look at, but it doesn't commit the city to necessarily a course of action, but it's an agenda for the department for the coming year. Here's what we plan to focus our efforts on, sort of thing.
just,
Councilmember Fife.
Just to clarify my memory, as I recall, the last time we heard from the Evelyn Park Conservancy regarding the status of the park there in the second phase, one of the strongest points they wanted to make was that Evelyn Park's goal is to be totally energy sustaining themselves. And with that, they've installed a number of, additionally, solar panels, and from what I understand, they're moving toward that goal very quickly. They have the option of being a new park, and some of our other parks probably that wouldn't work, but I think that kind of fits with what you were asking about. And
Yes, ma'am, you're correct. In regards to electrical usage as well as water, they are definitely, their goal is to try to have a zero impact.
yeah, they were gonna recycle the water on the splash pad
Yes, ma'am.
to water the plants.
Yes, ma'am.
And the maintenance at the park there is not all Evelyn's Park Conservancy or all City of Bellaire. It's a blend, as I recall. Is that correct?
We have certain standards. The contract reads that we will provide the same standard of care to the park and the buildings that we would our building. Meaning, we cut the grass once a week. If they want to cut the grass a second time, that's on them to cut the grass a second time. We clean the bathrooms daily. If they want them cleaned 2 or 3 times a day, that's their responsibility. We fertilize, once a quarter. They want it done every month, that's on them to do it every month. So it's it's broken up by standard of care, and we looked at this park here as setting that standard, being a large park. Because some of the frequencies in the parks vary, depending on the amenities in that park, it depends on what's in it.
Thank you.
Further questions and feedback for Carl?
Just a couple quick questions. We are talking about budgeting. On page 15, where you have the budget overview, professional services, actuals in 2019 were $170,000, and 2021 adopted is $120,000. Contractual services, $409,000 down to $199,000. Those are great trends, love them, but,
I think that's slide 7.
or page 8 of 12.
The budget sheet, I think.
Yeah, but, so I did very simply, what are professional services, contractual services, what's the difference between the two?
The contractual services are basically for us more program related, okay? Professional services, would be more along the lines of, perhaps a consultant or, I'm trying to think what else might be under that, because it certainly isn't all consulting fees there.
But I mean, would they be relating to parks, or would they be relating to buildings?
Possibly both.
Okay.
Possibly both.
And so when you say the programs, are you talking about?
Things like, for us, when I say programming, like
Hiring a
cell
rep.
phones,
Oh,
those travel or training, those type of things that fall under us under that category, contractual services. Our contracts themselves, so like buildings and parks, they're split up within the budget. We, for like park, the landscape maintenance contract is under his, park maintenance budget. Facilities budget would include, HVAC contracts, pest control, those type of things. So they're broken up primarily in the maintenance budget, park maintenance budget, and the building maintenance budget is where the vast majority of our contracts are.
Well, I understand, and that part looks, I'm just trying to, so I guess it's one of the things, we could probably get a list of what all those were, right?
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anything further for Karl? Hearing none, thank you very much, Karl.
Great, thank you all very much.